just let you know the sessions we've got coming up in the next week or two. We've got Dom Davis talking about satisfactory in Go, which is going to be an interesting one where he's tying in games with recursive algorithms. We've got a Jamstack session with Jamie Bradley talking about how he's built a Jamstack application with no servers to manage his diabetes and track his blood sugar levels, which is going to be interesting. And then we've got Jez Higgins later on, what's the date of that one? Sorry, the 2nd of July, kicking us off into the new month with a slightly a description that I'll read to you actually, which I can't summarize. How I read an article by one of the original signatories of the Manifesto for Agile Software Development and accidentally ended up writing a version of Asteroids for my phone. So that sounds like it's going to be an interesting one. We're going to attempt, the diabetes and Jamstack session on YouTube Live. So tune in for that. Don't forget, we run a virtual social club every Friday about 5:30. It often goes on for 2 hours, occasionally significantly longer. So feel free to drop in at any time. You can find that on the meetup group. And we have a vibrant community running a Discord now. There's lots of activity on all sorts of things, from career advice to technical advice to just generally talking about life and lockdowns. If anyone's got any shout outs, there's a quick segment here where you're free to make any announcements that you might want to make. So there's quite a few people here. If you'd like to just unmute yourself and there's something that you wanted to share with the group, now would be a good time to do it. I'll just wait a couple of seconds, but if no one's got anything to say, without any further messing about from me, I will hand you over to Dani, who's going to tell us about Jupyter Notebooks. I'll see you at the end, where we'll hopefully have some questions.
Thanks, John.
Over to you, Dani.
Hello, hi. Let me share my desktop. I have two screens because I'm due for an eye test. And although I live very close to Nottingham Castle, I have an appointment with Specsavers on Tuesday, so I will be looking up and down and left and right because I have screens with high resolution. So what I'm going to talk about is, first of all, find the mouse. And I'm going to talk about Jupyter Notebooks. It is a web application that is nice, it's cute, and it allows me to see to execute code segmentally, which means that I will have one square filled with code or with Markdown, run it, modify it, and move forwards. Now, before I start, let me find, this is how I log in. I press code activate, I make a typo, I write Jupyter Notebook, and then I type it correctly. That's part of the starting, right? And then it loads this one. Now for this task, I usually download some data from Kaggle, and I'm going to guide you through everything I do so that you can replicate what I'm doing, because that's the scope of doing stuff, of showing it, that I will show you how data analysis happens so that you can do it at home by watching the video. If you don't have a Jupyter Notebook, the easiest way to get is Conda Jupyter Notebook. It's you download Anaconda, and it also has either install Jupyter Notebook or get it from Anaconda Cloud. I have the Anaconda Cloud because it has a lot of tools. It has Spider, which is Python Python for like scientific purposes, which I used to use. It doesn't sound right when I was doing seismic analysis. But this is how you get a Jupyter Notebook, and the documentation is pretty much self-explanatory, so you can download the notebook into Python and get straight on it. Now, I went to a data set here, and I tried to find a nice free data set that is not very depressing. So we have police shootings, COVID. Generally, in Kaggle, you can get free data sets and you can see the news trends. So we have COVID, and police shootings. In the past, we had a lot of Bitcoin going around, so I did a filter here and I put CSV files because I don't really want to go into JSON and SQLite JSON manipulation in Jupyter notebooks. Not that it can't be done, but that's not the purpose of what I want to show you. So I went here, I went to hottest, and I went to the one that got most votes because it looks like they're pretty good data sets and I don't have to do a lot of clearing. And that's the good thing with picking data from sources like Kaggle, because you can get data that is nice and clear and easy to work with, and you can focus on the process in Python. So let me show you which one I downloaded. Oh, no. I'm going to cheat a little bit and write happiness because I've done it before. That's the one I downloaded, the World Happiness Reports. So it's a landmark survey of the state of global happiness. So we will see how happy we are. And I downloaded all those CSV files, and you can see that there is no information for 2020, but it would be really interesting when the 2020 data comes in to see what happened this year retrospectively. Anyway, so I made a folder here, documents, happiness data. I've done a little bit of look at what's going on, but then I got tired. So that's why it's quite a small file. And now I'm going to start a new file, notebook in Python 3. Python 3 is the kernel. I'm not in a virtual environment because I'm just doing some exploratory analysis. So it lives in base. That's the virtual environment that it is, which is everything is chucked in here. If you want to do analysis like machine learning, you load libraries from Python to the virtual environment that you're using so that you can keep them tidy. And maybe you need to downgrade with some libraries that might depend on other libraries. So it's good to work on virtual environments. But since this is a beginner-friendly presentation, that's the word, I'm going to keep it simple. So rename notebook, I will rename it happiness. Reports, rename. You can see here that the kernel is in Python. So you can see here that I can write code, I can write Markdown. So I can make a title in Markdown because I want to use this as a preliminary report to the client. So I can export it later, download as .pdf, and send it over to my client with some comments that I might have. So I will call it World Happiness Exploratory Analysis. My advice with preliminary data analysis is write as many words as you can at the beginning, because you will forget what you did. I will forget what I did. You won't. So it's very good to have a record of what happens, and later on you can delete as you move to production. World Happiness Exploratory Analysis, we need to import some libraries. So we import pandas as PD. Pandas is the statistical data, the statistical analysis data in Python, which is very numerical. There are GeoPandas, which are for geographical analysis, and they got better and better in the last 2 years. So if you want to use, if you do mapping, I strongly recommend GeoPandas because you move away from proprietary software like S3 and Ordnance Survey. So it's good now. What do? I want to read the CSV. So let me run this first. DF 2019, let's see what's happened last year. So I'm importing the CSV, read underscore CSV. And how did I name it? 2019 CSV, that's not. So I don't want to see everything that is in this data frame because God knows how many things, how many entries are in there. We can see it later. I don't want to print it, I want to be smart. So I want to see the titles and the first 5 entries. So DF head. I see the overall rank. This is the index, and in Python we start counting from 0. Country of region, score, GDP per capita, social support, you can read, so that's what happens. So I guess that if I type 2019.tail, I will see the last entries. If you have any comments or you want to ask anything, just ask away, because it's a code along thing pretty much, okay? What else? What else? What do I want to see? Thank you, Alex. I'm looking at the chat up there, and yeah. So thank you for posting all the links.
Most of them.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, these are all.
They're for my reference later more than anything.
I'm thinking, what if I want to see df underscore 2019, and I want to see what happens in the uk.log, square brackets, Dani, square brackets, sorry, I was looking at the wrong cell, df 2019, then I will look at the country of region, and I want the country of region to be, hopefully it will be written that way, United Kingdom, and see where the UK stands. So the overall rank is 15, my country of region is United Kingdom, and you can see the scores here. Now, what I usually say at this point, or even up here, is that I don't know the units. So I need to know if they're all measured with the same, you know, in the same units. It's not like metric and imperial or something like that. And out of the same amount, like if it's out of 10, out of 1, out of, is it a percentage? Who knows? What I usually do is I mark down a cell, because I keep in the back of my head that this might go as a report to the client, because I might be called to do some other work, and I don't want to revisit. Did they put it as markdown? Yes, font space, color equals red. And then I will write font and usually write something like units, but because I want to be polite, I will write something, please provide more information regarding units, see email. And this way I will remember to write an email as well. So it helps a lot to write things down that you want to do in a notebook. So far I have pretty things that I can see here. I know that UK is 15. Let me check where my home country is, because now I'm curious. If you want to see another country, just let me know. I've upgraded. Yeah, I moved from here, so, okay. So what I want to see is if I have any data missing, because this will define the quality of my analysis. So all I have to do is do df 2019.info So I get all the information about what happens. What concerns me here is A, if data is missing, if this number is not the same. And I've run another presentation on the same context, and I pulled the data set that had categorical data and missing data, and it was live coding, and I was like, oh no. But this time we have only numerical data, objects, I guess, the country of region, which is a string, the overall rank, which is an integer, all good. I don't have any categorical values. So if I have categorical values, I need to convert them into a number or into a numerical representation so that it will be easy for me to compare them with the numbers, with the floats that I have. But this is not happening here, so I can move and make a heat map, plt.figure. Now, this will not run. And I want you to tell me why. Fig size 25,25. So why is this happening?
Kev's saying it's because you've not imported PLT.
Yep. What I usually do, and it's not a very good practice, is a thank you, Kevin, is I write my import here. And this is quite lazy thing for me to do, so I will be nice. I will not do my usual thing, so I will do import. I've took a note of this because I copy and paste them, and don't do that. Matplotlib dot, I think it's PLT, because I wrote import matplotlib, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's fine, I'll remember the rest. Oh no, it's like, there we go, I think. So the reason that I've done that is because, wait a minute.
Hello, Danny. Do you need to rerun the cell with the imports on it?
I've rerun it, I think. Let me have a look. It's, oh yes, you're right. 9, 10, 10, and 9. No, PLT at fixed size 25, 25. Wait, I think I've done something more stupid than that. I forgot to write else because fixed size is not a function.
Matplotlib import plot.
Yeah, I'll show you something that I personally prefer more than matplotlib. The reason why I do this is because I can't see that well. So this is why I got envious about this patient that went to get his eye test checked on the castle, because I didn't have this opportunity. So the heat plot is SNS, which I'm going to use Seaborn. So Python has a lot of visualization libraries. Import Seaborn as SNS, and Seaborn is nice because it has very good, well-defined color templates. And for people like me who can only name in any language like 6 colors, is very helpful. It reduces the amount of thinking that I want to do. Heat plot, I think. Heat map, sorry. Heat map, parentheses, what I want to do, DF 2019, and I want to do a correlation heat map. And I want it to have annotations equals true, and I want it to be square equals true. The reason why I want it to be square is mainly for it to look nice. I can show you how it works later. Have I run this? 13. Yeah, let me run it again. And then we're here. So this is what it looks like. Now, I will write another thing for the client here. And I will say, What have I done? See email. No, it's okay. Assumed all data has same units per column. Otherwise, what I've just did makes no sense at all. This happens a lot in geospatial data and in seismic data because you have information that is measured before the imperial, when we have the imperial measurements. So you get a data set which has inches transcribed from another log, and then you have meters and centimeters. And all of a sudden you see like, let's say the width of the rail, you see an outlier that the rail becomes like really, really thin, and then you think, oh, it's inches, it's the same. So this is a good practice to nudge the client for units. So what does this show? It makes my life easier. It shows correlations. So the rank is defined by the score, minus 0.99, which means that the higher the rank, the lower the rank, because it identifies it as a number. So the lower the numerical value of the rank, the higher the score. That's the minus here, which makes sense. Another strong correlation that I can see, and you can see why I like this, because it automatically imported some colors that stick out, and I can see very easily what will happen next. So I have the GDP per capita. If you have a lot of money, your rank is, the numerical value of your rank is smaller. So it means that you go up here. If a country has money, it's happier. There you go. So insert joke about money buying happiness or not. Anyway, social support, another thing that increases the rank. Health life expectancy, it decreases the numerical value of the rank, so goes higher on the list. And freedom to make life choices sit in the middle, minus 0.55. Things that do not affect the happiness, the ranking so much, is the generosity, and a very, very crude assumption is, yes, but because if you have a very large GDP per capita, you have your own money, everyone has money. That's completely wrong. Generosity doesn't really affect the ranking, and the perceptions of corruption, it has quite a low correlation with the score and the rank. So I don't really know what to make out of these. And to be honest, because it hasn't got any units, like is this like 41% of people believe that, let's say, the country is corrupted, or 41% of the people believe that there is no corruption in the country. This didn't come with a lot of information. It came with a report, but when you're in the office, you just get a bunch of CSVs and you're told, sort it out, mate. And yeah, so that's part of my life. Like, this is why you get all the lengthy emails if you work with me, asking like, explain. But the good thing is that the sooner you annoy the client, the less dead time you have, because you don't have to guess. You can do this analysis in like 2 hour stops, and then you can send a preliminary investigatory email to your client and say, this is what I found, this is what's going to happen, should I proceed, these are my questions. And everyone is happy because your client thinks that you're good value for the money. You came 2 hours after, starting the project with questions. So the easier you resolve this, you minimize the sooner you resolve this, the less risky becomes the whole operation. So I want to make another plot, which is one of the plots that I think is a dot here, which is one plot that I can't see very well, 2019. And it's very important when you do presentations like that or send emails like that to make sure that it's actually visible. Seaborn shows us it will take a while this will plot this heat map data into pair plots. So we will have a plot that will show the perception of corruption and overall rank. What is interesting is that you have 156 values here, and it's 156 countries. And I don't know how many countries are there in the world. So I can Google that. How many countries in the world? 195. So we're missing some. So yeah, we don't know about some countries. So if you can also flag this to your client, say that I Googled and I saw that there are 195 countries, but we have 145 countries. Are you happy? Not like in the sense of happiness analysis, like, are you happy with me proceeding? So this is, let's say, overall rank, perception of corruption. What I want to show is the score and the overall rank, which shows that what we said. The higher the rank number, the higher the score number. The GDP per capita follows a similar trend. The lowest the value, the highest the GDP rank, GDP value. So even from that, I think you can even copy that and paste it, that image, and send it right away to anyone interested. Now, me being me, I would massively complain if I get that, because that's what I do. It's my recent hobby. Complain about the castle, the eye test, I've mentioned it a lot. Complain about, I can't see the chart, I can't see the units. So this is a whole internal monologue that happens during the quarantine. So I see that and I say, I can't really see it. My client won't see it. So I showed you Seaborn. I will show you Alter, that this is something that Ian Oswald, if you know him, showed me. And it's pretty cool. Ian Oswald is a data scientist and he runs classes in London, really good classes. And I'm giving shout out to my friends now because I can. And I learned a lot from him, including Alter. And he wrote a book recently, which is a book written for the Danis of the world in mind, because as I told you, have a lot of data. I've said that to Sean and Alex. If you have a lot of data and you want to run it, you don't need to have your work laptop next to you and run your feed function, because it shows you ways to optimize your code so that this won't happen. Giving a presentation and sneakily staring over there and saying, oh my God, it lost connection to the Kubernetes pod. Do that. So there you go. After we're done with that, so we're gonna do something with Alter, which is another way to visualize stuff. And another library that I need to mention, chart, before I go into Alter, which I don't use very often, but people do, is Bokeh, and it has some JavaScript elements in it. And this is another tool that you might need to explore. I don't use it very often. I have no idea what does. I have no idea how to do complex visualization with it, but look at that. So yeah, this is another library you might want to explore with visualization. So what I was looking at, our chart. I want to see DF 2019. And then I want to write down a mark, I think. And I want it to be a circle. And I want an underscore here. And I want to fix the size of that to 60. You know what, I'll make it 70. And then I want to encode. Now I'm gonna make the X and Y axis and see X equals comma, Y equals space, comma. So let's take a pause for a second and see which two values we want to examine more closely. I'll just put the titles here and let me know which ones I should copy and paste into X and Y. Kevin, yes, Alter is in the base. It's not in the base Anaconda environment. You have to import it. Are you doing Conda Alter? Conda, Dani. It's here. And that's how you import it. You do a Conda install with a Forge.
Oh, thank you, Dani.
I'm sorry, it takes me a while to, yeah. I'll copy and paste this in the chat. Which way is it? Is the other screen? There it is. So yeah, I find Alter very, very useful because it has quite a nice documentation. It's not as, you know, difficult to work around. I find some of them libraries are not very easy for me to work around, and I'm not the best person at visualizing stuff. I want things to be off the shelf. So since I didn't get, I'll do a GDP per capita and health life expectancy and see what happens. GDP per capita on the x-axis. On the y-axis, I want to have a health life expectancy. And I want to have a color hue. It changes the color with all this magic stuff that it does at the back. And I want the color to show the GDP per capita. The darker it is, sorry about that. Then there is the color, and then I want to have a tooltip, which if it works, generosity versus perception of corruption. I don't know if there is a correlation. That would be cool. Yeah, let's look at the generosity versus perception of corruption. That's very good. Thank you, Nigel. X-axis generosity and Y-axis perceptions of corruption. There we are. As you move towards your data analysis, you will have a lot of copy and paste stuff, which is, sorry about that, which is something that makes me very happy personally. Tooltip equals, and then you make a small array, and when you hover above your dot, you see the values that you want to see. So let's say, which one? Let's see social support. Copy. And let's see, comma, health life expectancy. I want this to be, interactive. And at this point, now I'm quite polite because I'm giving a presentation to all of you. I'm just thinking something about my skills in running the simple step, like run the first cell first, Dani. So this shows the darker it is, the highest the GDP per capita is, perception of corruption and generosity. If I hover above here, I can see the social support and the health life expectancy. I can add here in the tooltip as many values as I want, and I will copy and paste this in the chat because, other way, don't forget to change the color. I didn't forget to change the color. I left it this way because I can show, it's a little bit of a cheating thing. I can show 3 pieces of information, 3 values, using only a 2-dimension graph. So I can show the darker it is, the higher the GDP per capita is. I can change it to the generosity if you want to. And sorry, I've done something that I didn't want to do. So I can put the GDP per capita inside the tooltip as it hasn't got a limit. And I can change this to generosity if I, there it is. There we go. So now I can see that it goes darker as we move to the right. What I do, another thing that I do like is that I can zoom in. And if you have someone that does front end in your team, they can understand more about that. So that you can take it in a JSON source and the front-end team can work their magic. So it's quite nice as well. You just get automatically a JSON object. So what time is it? We have time. I will keep going until someone tells me be quiet now and I'll stop. So shall I do some machine learning, some scikit learning, or should I load another data set and go through that and see how it changes through the years? What do you want me to do?
I mean, my vote's on machine learning, but...
We'll do some scikit-learn.
So I've got a question. What's the function of tooltip?
Okay, sorry. Yes. So, yes. So tooltip, identify, you can see here that tooltip says social support, healthy life expectancy, and GDP per capita. If I put my cursor on top of a dot, it shows these values that I specified in the tooltip. Okay. So that's what it does. And you can add as many values as you want. There is no limit. You can add the whole table if you feel like it. And again, it's so, I can't draw any conclusions by looking at it, the perception of corruption and the generosity. Like I don't know if there is a correlation or anything. I can see that I have a peak here, but I really don't know. But that was a really good question. So maybe this would be something that you will need to flag to the client, because you don't only have to say that I've concluded that the overall rank, let's say, is reverse analogous with the score. There is a reverse analogy, or the obvious things. You can also say to your client, I saw this and I don't really know the social context that this is happening. Have you got anyone that can show me? Because from where I sit is I can do the maths, I will train a model after I finish this sentence. So I can do that, but I don't know the meaning behind this graph. And you'd be surprised how many clients are very happy to hear that these are my conclusion and this is the inconclusive stuff, because they look further into the data. They can send you an additional data sets. I don't know about perception of corruption and generosity, but for example, if you do like natural language processing, and you see some words in your feedback, let's say that you collect data from clients and the clients write feedback reports about the product, and you see some words that don't match and they give you graphs like that, you can go back to the client and say, okay, I was doing this analysis in this language, let's say in French, and then I saw these words which don't really match my dictionary. And then the client can say, oh, this is the demographic, this is the population, this is the education level, this is, there are some like people that speak a local dialect here. So you initiate a dialogue with your client and you can shed more light by requesting more information. Now, let's do some machine learning and let's see me forgetting to run the first cell again. So what do I want to import? What do I want to do? Linear model, because it seems easy. I say that every time, and then it's never easy. I think we will get an easy dot model. Have a good. Okay, thanks, Kevin. These are all the visualization libraries I know. So if you know any other visualization library that I don't know, please give me a shout and I'll investigate. But the fact that I know of it doesn't mean that I can run it efficiently, as you've seen with Bokeh. I can tell you that it's there, it's nice, but it's, wait a minute, from Dani, but I can't use all of them with the same efficiency. Train, test, split. And then I want to import something else. I think that's what I want to import. Now I've run it. Yay. And let's see what we have. The plan is we have the data set up here. Where is the mouse? It's the other way. Okay. Sorry, I can't see. There we are. Sorry about that. So let me see again what information we have. Country of origin is a string, so this will cause me problems. So I have to remove this. So if I don't want to remove the country, I can add a numerical value from, let's say, 0 to, sorry, I can use an encoder and make columns with the names of the countries. So I will have additional 165 or how many there were country columns. And I will have a 0 and 1. So let's say if the country is the UK, I will have 0 in Rwanda, 0 in Japan, 0 in Italy. And then when the column of UK happens, there will be value number 1. But I'm not going to do this now, mainly because I don't think, because I'm not running a geographical analysis. I'm running a pandas classic data science analysis. I will drop this column. If I wanted to see the geographical analysis, as we've discussed, we have the geopandas. And in this case, you will map the countries and you will color code the values, the perception, the generosity, and you can draw geographical correlations, like which country is next to each other and how they can, the geography influence, let's say, the GDP per capita. I'm just saying a random column value. So DF 2019, I will name it SK because it's for psyche training purposes. And I will type DF 2019.drop. What am I dropping? Country. Or region. I'm dropping this. And then I'm dropping it on axis 1. Okay, let's make sure that I've dropped it. That sounds quite odd, but there we go. What have I done now? Yes, I've added a space here. Yeah, again, this is Monday. I do all those things and then I go home exhausted because I'm like, why? I've been doing this for like 5 years now. Why is this happening? it seems that the country origin has been dropped, so we're good to go. I will delete this because I don't need this. What do I want to do? I want to split the training sample. So what I want to see is I want to predict, let's say, what do I want to predict? The score. I want to see what the score will be based on the other values, because I don't, the score is calculated with an algorithm somehow with these ones, but I don't know it, so I want to predict it. So X should be everything in the data frame, but the score. So we will do the same thing again, drop. Score, I think, axis 1 and Y should only be dfsk.sk. You can do it two ways. You can either write sk score in inverted commas and in bracket squares, or you can write a dot like that. It will be the same. I'm just showing you both, just in case just for homogeneity, I'll leave it like that. So, yes?
How is it? I'm not overly familiar with Python.
Huh?
I'm not very familiar with Python myself. So to be able to do that is that blows my mind, to be quite frank. That's like a pluck. So you're plucking the scores out of the array.
Yeah, so I'm dropping, I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So let me run this and I can type X. So here I have, that's a very lazy way to visualize your data. So I have here X, so you can see that it's the data frame minus the country of region, which I removed. And I've removed the score. And if I type Y and I do Shift Enter, you can see that I've created just a column with the scores. So that's what I've done and just split it. Now the interesting bit, X train, comma, X test. You can find similar notebooks in Kaggle. You have a lot of learning resources. I can send it over to you if you want to. But yeah, X train, comma, Y train, Dani, Y test. Equals, what do I want to split? That's train, test, split. I'm using this from scikit-learn to split my X and Y's into the percentage that I want to test. Test size equals, I'm not gonna write anything on this side yet because, and then I want to have the random state equals 10 because it doesn't, that's the randomization factor I think will be fine. It's the most commonly used factor. So the test size, it means it identifies the percentage of the data that I will use to test the algorithm that I train. So if a correct practice that I follow, I don't say if it's correct or not with samples like that, I didn't press number lock, 0.2. What did I do? Yeah, there we go. I type 0.2, which is 20% of the values are used to test the model. Depending on what you're doing, this value can change. So I'm using 80% to train, 20% to test. Now I'm doing the regression equals linear model. And a thing that I don't like with the Jupyter notebooks, and that says about I don't want you to draw conclusions about my work ethic, but it shows that a little bit of laziness from my end is that it doesn't have autocomplete. But if you run PyCharm, I don't know about VS Code or something like that, But in PyCharm, if you have it, you can have a plugin with Jupyter Notebook, and this has autocomplete. So if you feel like autocomplete is a very important part of your life, like I am. Dot fit, so I'm fitting the model now, and I want to fit the X train and the Y train. And after I fit it, I want to do the prediction. So Y predict, because I have the X train, Y train, X test, Y predict. So I want to see what I've predicted. I want to do regression dot predict, and I want to put in my X test. And hopefully nothing will happen. Something happened. I forgot a comma. Nothing happened, which is good. It means that A, I didn't forget to run the top cell. B, I didn't get an error. So now I want to plot what I've done. Okay, fig equals plt dot figure. Now, the only time I've used matplotlib was to identify the size of the figure. I'm going to do a plot with matplotlib now, okay? Which was the very first library that I've imported, just to have an idea of everything. This is something that you can easily copy and paste from the website of matplotlib. Just paste it in the chat. It has some examples. So PLT figure axis 1 equals figure dot add subplot. Oh, and we're right in time. That's the first time that I managed to do that. AX1 dot scatter. I want to make a scatter graph that has a lot of wording. It's more wordy than alter. X underscore train. I want to see from X, let's say, what did we see before? We saw the generosity, so we'll see the generosity again from train, and comma Y train, comma S equals 15, that's the size, color equals blue, comma marker equals circle. Oh, I think it should be in inverted commas, comma label. If it's the trained, it should be called existing data. That's the scatter one. And I want to have another scatter graph, which will have the exact same information, but not really. I want to have not the generosity, but I want to have not the train part, but I want to have the test, X test. And now I want to see the, this is not gonna work here. And now I want to see what happens with Y. And I want it to be red, and I want to be X, and I want this to be predicted data, and I don't want it to be red, I want to be that one, I hope. Now, plt.legend. I think it's upper left or bottom right, or you explain it. plt.x label. How do we call it? Generosity. And the y label, we will call it score. And then we have to ask it to show it to us, and that's all. Fingers crossed that it will work. Yes. So here you can see that we have the predicted values, they worked, and the extrain and generosity. Another thing we can do is we can overlap all the data on top of it, and we can see, we can make circles above the x-axis, above the, not the x-axis, the x spots there. Predicted data, which I don't know why I've done something really bad here and it says U and P, but that wasn't my intention.
Is it upper left? I think that's
upper left. You know what I've done? I can't even type today. There we go. Upper left. Actually, it's better to be upper right. Another thing that Jupyter Notebook does sometimes is that it calls you out when you've done something that you didn't see. Like I typed up left and it says, okay, I put it where I think is best, which is here, but please make sure to learn how to type very politely. So there we are. So we can see that these graphs look a little bit similar. Generosity, no, they don't, because it's generosity and score. They look similar to me. Everything looks the same. So this is how we predict the values. It's 8:03. Should I do the find out where they plot all the data on top of this data, or you won't call it a day?
I'm happy to carry on. We usually go to around about 8:30, to be honest. But if
okay, I'll do this quickly.
Yeah, okay.
And then I will, let me Control C, the FSK generosity, and what was I looking at? Yes. Usually what is the correct approach is to plot the performance numbers, like the values, the score of the model. But because, as I told you, this is like a small visualization for the clients, I think that they don't care about me saying that's the correlation, the coefficient, and that's the ratio. They will be like, yeah, just show me that they match, because they want to skim through the email and not send like, not have a debate about how much I charge them. Marker access, then that comes from the times that I was working as on my own or in a corporation. So I have to be very cautious on minimizing the financial risk. So let's hope that this will work. So we can see here, and can you see my screen properly? I can't, oh yes, I can zoom in, there we go. So you can see that the yellow, no, let me make it, score, let me make it 9, the size, and let me make it green, because something interesting is happening. So the small green is the, not the predicted data, is the, let's call it excluded data for the prediction. So we'll caveat that. So you can see that the small green sometimes fall very close on top of the X. Here you have like a match, but sometimes they fall a little bit further ahead or a little further below. So these are the values that we didn't calculate in which we tested our model if it's very good. So this way we have a visualization of how close we are to reality. So yeah, so that's all I think. I have more things if you want me to keep talking about different years and different data frame combination, but everything after that becomes import. I will actually tell you what happens because you can do it on your own. Read CSV 2018, don't do the same, join the two data frames and start comparing score 2018, score 2019, etc. And then you can see different trends. So that's homework. Yay, please don't hate me. Giving people homework. Hi, I don't know you, I give you homework. And that's all from me. And I don't see anyone on the chat.
Dani?
Yeah?
Kevin here. So you're saying when you join the two data frames, because that's something I haven't done yet, comparing data frames. But if you join them, do you make one new data frame from the 2 year sets of data? Or are you having 2018 data frame, 2019 data frame, and then comparing them with pandas?
You can do it both ways. So I'm gonna send you exactly what's happening on the chat, okay, so that you can look at the documentation in pandas and how you can put them, join them together. Or you can do a merge. What I usually do, and it helps me keep not write lengthy data, is I do that. Control C, Control V, let's say 2018, and then I will go here and write 2018 head. Okay, so I see that, okay, they're both imported. df 2019 dot columns equals, and then you rename your columns with this, where it is, squiggly brackets. You make a dictionary when you rename your columns. And let me send you the correct documentation. Pandas rename column by using a dictionary. Sorry about that. Why am I doing it up there where I can't even see it? There we are. That's what I was looking at. I typed to put in the chat. Control V. There you create a dictionary and you rename your columns. So I do rename my columns like that. And then the renaming that I do is let's say 2018 df dot rename parentheses columns equals squiggly brackets and overall rank (2019) comma. So I just make this with underscores mainly because I can also use the dot thing that I've showed you, like df 2019 dot country underscore origin 2019.
And you're postfixing it with the year. So you've got, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And because I want to keep everything tidy, if I merge them into a data frame, sometimes I run out of RAM when I talk about when I have large data sets.
Iterate through the columns and yeah, make a dict and then Add that, yeah.
Exactly. So this is why it renames it. It does it once,
Mhm.
and then it doesn't do it again. So you've renamed your data frame, and then you can, let me show you exactly what I mean. I will just do 2 columns because there is no point in showing you how good I am in typing or not. Country or region equals that one. Let's hope that it works. No, obviously it's that. So I've renamed this one. So now what I can do is insert cell above, do that, dot overall rank 2019. What have I done? DF. There we go. So if I do DF 2019, oh, let's do a plot. So the point that I'm trying to make is that I can plot one against the other, but I've chosen the wrong columns and it doesn't make a lot of sense now. So let me go and do that again and find out the GDP per capita. That's what I want to do. And I have the overall rank here. Okay, that's what I wanted. I can put this in inverted commas. Control V. 2019. That's what I want to do now. Let me do freedom to make choices, generosity. I'm just checking if they didn't add yet another column or they didn't remove a column from those 2 data sets. So I'm here, I saw 2018 rename, so I will do my favorite thing, copying and pasting, and I will replace 19 to 18. 18. And let me run this and run that again just in case. And let's go. The correct practice is to save a copy of this file, make a copy, and work on any modifications. Or if you have Git, I don't have in this machine, make a commit, a partial commit, say initial commit, that's my first draft, and then start doing the modifications on existing cells. Otherwise it gets really hairy, but usually make a commit or do it the old school, make a copy, and then you will have at the end final happiness report. Definitely final. Yeah.
We did actually have a offline question about collaboration in regards to Git and stuff.
Yes.
So that was a good potential segue there.
With Git, yeah. So.
Oh, and there's a potential good suggestion from Nigel around.
Yes, with Git merge on the data frame. Yes, and you add suffixes. Yep, and you raise an exception on overlapping columns, false, false. So the exception that you will raise will be the country of origin.
Oh yeah, because it's a constant.
Yeah. The question is, as we've said before, we have 156 countries. What if I do that? I see here that I have 155 in perception of corruption. So I will need to raise that in the merge as an exception.
Well, okay.
I must know which country doesn't have a score for perception of corruption. Like that's like a confirmation of the perception of corruption, is it not?
Or you can say that they didn't provide a value, but at the same time, there are more countries, as Google said, not the ones that gave us information. So, and again, and I say that from my own experience coming from a country that English is not the first language and not seeing any values. If someone goes and says to me, what's the number of perception of corruption? I would just need a 2-page thing to read and make sure that I will give you the correct value. So there is a lot of factors on how do people measure generosity, or is there an independent committee collecting this data? How does this data happen? It is on the report, on the calculate, you can see how this data comes out. But again, without having read the report and with me sitting here looking at numbers, this is why I say units. The generosity in Finland means the same as the generosity in Denmark. What defines generosity? What are the parameters? Or countries with completely different cultural context, you don't know that. So probably it's a perception of corruption, and like, yeah, I don't really know what this is. I think, yeah, that's it. So I usually do this, and I don't do the merge thing mainly because it spits error in the perception of corruption, not in the perception of corruption, in values that they miss. So the good practice to use merge is to identify the info and the data missing, make a note on that, and when you merge, be prepared that you will get not a number in the perception of corruption. So if you do a graph, or if you do a machine learning model, just be prepared that you will have -1. But having said that, it's one value out of a data set that has 156 values per column. So it's not a very bad thing, if that makes sense.
Can you use fill NA then to fill all the numbers? But is that a wise move? Because then you're just assuming that it's 0.
I won't put a 0 because I will just leave it as an A, because if I put it in the fit model,
oh, you leave it in NA, yeah.
Yes. If I put it, I'd rather raise exceptions at merge with that. Like accept NA and go through the documentation in pandas, because it happens all the time.
The previous way you show looks easier because you've got more control over it when you're
Yes.
naming the columns.
Also, you don't need to rename all of them. And let me show you something that I show in another data frame. And that will cause problems. I think, have I got 2015? Let me rerun this and let me type. You have, see, all of us, they changed the title of the columns. You have a standard arrow, you have the economy, you have something called family. So this is not the same as the 2019 titles. So if you merge this one with 2019, how will the suffixes work, and how trust, government corruption? That's it. Dystopia residual. So usually you have to go through, that's why I showed you the dot head, because
it's not always going to be nice and neat and lining up. You're going to have to segue. Yeah.
And it helps you understand your data before you start committing to anything. See, here you have 158 countries. So yeah, this is why. What I was going to do a double plot, but yeah, you got the gist. You're already there pretty much. I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, my advice is not to replace nonce if you're doing a typical fit model. Just let it be empty, because 0 can be a false value. It doesn't train the model correctly. So as I showed you here, this distance can be higher or smaller, or it can show results that are not representative of the correct training of the model. if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because that 0 is representative then, and it's wrong.
It will see 0 as a 0 value. It will see a generosity if you say that you have not a number as 0.
Mm.
And you will have a score. Let's say the score is 7 and the generosity is 0. So this will be a training parameter. And it doesn't represent the reality. The model probably, either it will throw an error, it will say discard not a numbers, or it will use this depending on the model you're running. It will discard it automatically. So if, again, it's 1 out of 156, so it's not a bad thing. So let's say that you have a score value, but you don't have a generosity. You'll get an error saying you have no number. Okay, how many are null out of my 156? It's 1. I can't afford to lose one value. If it was 50 out of 156, this is when you write an email to your client and say, okay, I can't train a model with a third of the data missing in this parameter. Please advise, should I discard this parameter? You tell me.
Brilliant. That's what I've had in the past. Yeah, and I've had to tell them that it's not enough when you've got a lot of gaps. Yeah. Zeros.
Exactly. What I usually do is I do the analysis with the data I have, if I can do it like in time, which they don't come back challenging the bill. If it can take me like 4 hours, 5 hours or something like that, then I will do it. And then I say, this is what I've managed to do, but this one was missing. Let's say here, I trained score against country of region. Instead of I dropped country of region. If I have a lot of values missing here, I will just drop this value. And I will say, I dropped family because let's say it had only 50 values. It's not helping. And I will send them an email saying, this is what happens disregarding this amount of data that I don't have. However, this is the best I can do. What do you want? How do you want me to proceed? And then they probably will send you something like an alternative of family or another parameter that I think they deem more relevant or more recent data. Who knows?
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you very much for that, Dani. That's really interesting stuff. I've not really played with these before, but I'll certainly be playing with them again when I've got a bit of time. Did anyone else have any more questions they wanted to ask Dani while you've got the chance, or should we wrap it up for this evening?
I just wanted to touch upon that question we had again with regards to Git.
Yes.
That is something you use to collaborate. There was a question on our Discord earlier.
Oh, I've got a copy of it here. Do you want me to? Have you got it?
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
No. So the question was, how do you ensure two people on the same, working on the same notebook, have the same environment, have the same shared environment? So I assume that's talking about dependencies and things like that. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We usually make the environment and load it somewhere. Mm-hmm. So it's loaded on the server or something like that. So you download it from the server. I mean, I'm not a Git expert.
That's presumably as well where virtual env comes into itself as well with Python.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm not a Git expert, I have to admit. I do only the basic Git stuff that keeps me out of trouble. Yeah. But I usually download the VN whenever needed. Right. I have my own VNs stashed for different things that I do. I have my virtual environment for Django. I have the virtual environment for language processing because it has a lot of dictionaries. And sometimes they cause a lot of dependencies with pandas. And I need the most recent panda analysis. Is pandas? Yes. Yes, Nigel. Pandas with a graphical module, that's all you need. That's all we've done here. And we use scikit, which is developed by Google. I'll send you the link. Scikit learn. I was reading on random forest regression, which is a meta estimator. It classifies trees to samples. That's what I was reading. I'll send you the link. Yes, you can use the requirements txt using pip freeze. Yes, I haven't done this though. I haven't used that except in Django where I use the requirements, but not in other environments, Nigel. Kevin, sorry. So you know more about this, to be honest.
I just think for, maybe for Anaconda, it might be a bit too large. Like for Django, requirements TXT might be, you've got quite a large, and I think Conda's got its own installation, like you say, you've got Conda Forge, haven't you? Which is
yes,
like pip, and you've got your own environments as well.
Yes,
so.
Which I make through Conda, mainly because mainly because it's easier. Let me see if I have a virtual environment in this machine. I hope I do.
I've used the Conda Navigator to edit like the virtual environment. I had that much success though, because you can create and import from there, from the GUI.
Yes, I was doing that, but now I run on Linux, so I don't have the visual thing. But in my old job, this is what I was doing.
The Navigator is on Linux. It's not an icon for it. I think you can run it from terminal.
Can I find it from terminal? I never bothered, to be honest.
Anaconda-Navigator.
Yeah.
Terminal.
Oh yes, yes.
Because it's great because you can use Spider from, I think it's dash, yeah.
I've never used Spider in this machine. Again, Spider was when I was doing the seismic thing.
Look at it. I'd like to know more.
Yeah, let's have a look. I'd like to know more because I've just installed. I've just installed Linux, and not just. It's been like a year. But I work with Windows at work, and I have Linux to do my artificial intelligence stuff for university. And yeah, I confuse myself with that. So I kept this simple. It has, I think, some Django in it. There we go. Environments. Let's see what I have. I have Ian's course here, I think. And I don't know what this is. Yeah, that's. So let me go here, not here. What just happened here? Let me do a Conda activate, and let me do a Conda activate course. So now I've changed to the virtual environment of the course here. I don't know what libraries are in there, so let's have a look. I have pandas. I have pandas profiling. Oh, that's good. Do I have it on the base, that one? Oh, I can show you something else. Ian showed me pandas profiling. I have it here too. I thought that would be like, oh, look, I have it in this environment and not in the other. Come on. Yeah, shall we make a virtual environment here? Oh, I have voila. Aha. Okay, I'll show you something cool that I have in this environment, okay? Am I answering any questions or I'm just blabbing? I don't know.
No, it's all good.
It's okay.
You're starting the Jupyter notebook in that environment in the terminal. So the Python instance you're using now is going to be using that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I moved from base, which is where I run everything that has basic data science bits and nice visualizations. Because sometimes I used to be sent on a client side, plug in, get some data that for security reasons can't leave the place. And the last thing I wanted to do is have the laptop that belongs to my client and start making virtual environments, because that's how, it's not my environment. I don't care. I'll make a base. I'll throw in pandas, some visualizations, NumPy, and that's it. And pickle to save the data. So I'm starting a Jupyter notebook here. And you will see something in this notebook that it's not in the other one. Thank you for asking, though. That's really amazing. Thank you. Let me go and see another notebook that I've made for another presentation, documents. Diamonds, that's something that I've done for, oh, no, not that one. That does nothing. I want that. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. It's not the COVID, I've had it. I'm good now. So what I want to show you is that you can see here, this says voila. In this virtual environment, I have this little square. In the previous virtual environments, I don't. What does this square do is if I have interactive widgets, it can turn this notebook into an application. Let me allow perhaps for localhost, and hopefully it will work. It will make it, it will hide the code, and it will show the graphs. I'm giving you the spoilers because I haven't done this for a long time. So it might not work. I might be more embarrassed than I already am. So yeah, now I'm running on virtual environments that I accessed through the terminal. And I usually work more with the terminal than the navigator.
We need a quick drum roll, Sean.
Pardon?
We need a drum roll from Sean.
Don't have any drums. Oh no.
It will take a while.
Mine electric as well.
So yeah, even if it doesn't work, you can see that in one virtual environment I have something that turns my notebook into an application, and in another I don't, because I thought that I will never use it in the base environment.
So that's something you've installed for Conda, that obviously like a Python library, but that interfaces with Jupyter Notebook.
Yes.
I've never seen that before. So you can.
Let me find it for you. Conda alter, and I'll send it over at the chat. It's still thinking. Yeah, and it has the home on the GitHub is here, but let me copy and paste this first. What did I send? Did I say alter? And
I can say, yeah, you sent me the alter.
You want voila,
It's the voila.
Yeah, I'm confusing myself. Sorry.
That's all right.
Conda, voila. That's the one I wanted to show you. Yes. There it is.
So pip, Venv, and Anaconda are all just alternative package managers for Python. Is that right?
I only know two package managers, pip and Anaconda. That's all. I don't know if
Venv instructs pip.
Yeah, pip. Yeah, because you can install Python modules manually using setup tool. Pip does that all for you and handles it. But Anaconda uses its own kind of environment.
Yeah.
You don't set up using virtual you have to use the Conda activate, which Dani did in terminal. And then if you want to come out, you have to activate.
Yeah. I've never used Jupyter Lab.
No, I've not.
Yeah. Nigel asks the question, so I'm like, no, I have no idea even how it looks like. I know it exists, but I never even started to,
you can launch it from the navigator again with Spider, but
yes,
it looks like Jupyter Notebook for some reason.
It's one of the things that I haven't even installed it. It's one of the things that, because I don't work with the navigator that much, I just have a Jupyter notebook and that's it in this machine.
Oh, I haven't learned how to start from the terminal, so I always use the navigator.
Well, it's whatever is, it's easier really. Okay.
Not going to go past 8, is it?
Yeah, that's suspiciously stuck on 8, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't think that animation's anything to do with the execution.
Same. I think it hates me or something, or I think I know what I've done, and it might be as. Wait. There we go. Let me see how much stuff I have in here, because I remember I have quite a lot of graphs. Let me turn this off and on again. And open this through this virtual environment, happiness data. Let's see our report if it behaves better. Kernel Python 3, kernel starting, please wait.
I'm going to just use my desk.
Oh, we're going to get past 8.
Okay,
Oh,
14.
look how fast. Oh.
I've lifted my laptop.
Oh,
We
maybe
have a
not.
dehumidifier. And sometimes I put my laptop at the exit because it produces cold air. No.
9.
9.
Oh.
Oh, is the other one still running in the other tab? Oh, there it goes.
It's done it.
Hey.
So it hid all the code from the notebook that we have here. And it made it look like an application. And it has...
Oh, so it shows the markup as well.
The markdown, yes.
Markdown, sorry, not markup, but yeah, markdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So if, let's say, I don't want to show it to my client, or I want to do a presentation, or I want to see bigger graphs, I'll do that. But this is in a different virtual environment. And that's it, really. I don't know if I answered the question on virtual environments. Did I?
Yeah.
No idea.
That was really cool.
I think it's more a case of like, how would you share that virtual environment if you wanted to, like, let someone else have the same, you know, libraries. That was the thing on Git, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that's why I think on Django, I've only seen you'd put the requirements txt, and then the person would install the requirements into their own. They'd create their own virtual environment. So you might just put a file somewhere saying you need to install these into your.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty much.
You make. Oh, sorry. Can you not share virtual environments then?
You can, but it's a bit like node modules. So you don't want to like. You've got a package. It's easier to freeze the package. So requirements text is a bit like a package JSON file, and when you set up the virtual environment, you can you just basically say install from requirements, and it installs.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Pip freeze creates a requirements file, which is like a list of 20 libraries.
Yeah.
And then
I'm going to share with you the requirements thing that we have at Django Gear, which explains that. Let me find it.
One question, Dani, when you create like an extra environment in Conda, isn't it an extension of base? So you'll have all the libraries from base, and then if you want to install voila.
No, it's not, because voila, it's not in the base, and in fact, now that we have this, we can do it right now.
Oh yeah, but so for instance here, your virtual environment called course got voila in it, but it's also inherited everything from base as well. You haven't got to now import matplot and pandas. Is that, you know what I mean? When you're creating
Yes.
a new virtual environment, you haven't got to start from afresh. It's got all the core libraries in it.
No, if you do it here if you do it in the conda, no.
That's
It
good.
adds up on your base. This is why the base is always light, in my case, or I try to keep it light. And then at some point it has a lot of things that are like, how did you end up here? And have to remove things, and then another virtual environment is not running, and then it's Friday. So
that's how it goes.
yeah. So that's it. Now I'm just checking at because I have SymPy in here, and if it is in course, because I know that in course I never used SymPy. So SymPy is for symbolic mathematics, and it's used for, I used it when I was doing the seismic analysis for trains. You used to solve differential equations. So that's something that I'm looking at. I don't seem to have SymPy in the course.
Oh, so it's not the same.
Yeah. Because I know that in the base route I have SymPy from my previous job. I changed jobs in December, and I stopped doing seismic analysis in my current job. So I remember I had SymPy in here for this job, but excuse me, not for the course because I never used it. So yeah, let's see what happens. Let's create a virtual environment. Let's packages Python 3.6 because I'm weak. And let's see if it will pull everything from the root. I can hear you, but I have to leave my laptop. There we go. Okay.
It's good to see what Anaconda does come with, though. Requests, which I always think should be like a core Python library.
Requests, yeah. So I was trying to find in the Django Girls the requirements that we use to make, where you put like one file to download Django. Let me find it. Django installation, I think it is here. I've been going through this last month. There it is. So you make the requirements file and you add the version of Django that you want to install.
Yeah, that's it. /R. So you're getting the requirements file.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can do requirements, but if you're working with a lot of virtual environments and install your virtual environment through requirements, it might take a while.
But I will type in, I think if you're in the virtual environment and do like pip freeze,
Yeah.
you can then pipe it, I think.
Jose, I can't hide the code in Jupyter by default, to the best of my knowledge. This is why you use Voila, and there is another thing called app mode, which is similar to Voila. It does the exact same thing. Yes, pip freeze requirements. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, he doesn't have to give requirements. I mean, that just seems to be the name people give it. You could just call it libraries.txt or something like that.
So this is the base, the basic thing that comes in a new environment. Comes pip, no requirements. And that's it.
Also, you will have to, if you make a new environment, you will have to install pandas and...
Yes.
Oh, that's probably why I was having problems with it. I thought it was off the base. So I was importing pandas on my new environment.
Yeah, whenever, because I don't remember a lot of stuff. Whenever I don't, for example, I didn't remember, I thought the same, that that everything calls from the base because it's called root.
Yeah.
But what I did is I saw that, wait a minute, I always call SymPy from the base. And I remember that I've installed it twice because at first I had like some conflicts. So if this thing that I've installed at the base is installed in another virtual environment, then it calls from the base. If not, oops. So yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Dani.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Dani. That's really
Thank
cool
you.
stuff.
I didn't do anything. I was just typing down your ideas. It's teamwork. I'm just the one that shares the screen.
Right, well, I guess it's probably time for us to call it a night then.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for that, Dani. That's been really good. That was really cool.
Thank you for inviting me.